doing? My name is Charles Robinson, and I'm gonna be completely honest. I'm not gonna upload this with any special editing or anything to really make the video pop out to any specific demographic of people. I'm more so looking for people who think on the same wavelength that I do. When I'm making this video, I'm thinking to not only start a movement, but more so a full-on call to action. I'll say that. It's not just the world that we live in at this very moment. It's not just specific people that make everything harder for all of us. It's not just so many people trying to get off the ground, just doing things like that. Not just the student debt that people have to deal with all the time. Not just the other ridiculousness of the comedy show that all of politics has transformed into. And I can't even say it's transformed into. It's always been that way. The thing that I struggle with at this very moment is the idea that if you try and make a message to all the people that you're looking for, and you would try and use YouTube for that, things like that. YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, the news station. I talked about this to my grandmother. She does think on the same wavelength as I do quite a bit. One thing that I wouldn't say that she thinks about on the same wavelength is things like race being involved and just generalizing everyone to a non-specific problem. Like, it's always these white folks. They're the problem. I wouldn't say she says that in specific, but along the lines of those thoughts, I can't agree with. But my point is, in this first video that I'm making, this channel that I'm making, which I'm thinking to call something along the Chronicles of, is what I was thinking of not too long ago. Or stories. The stories, a legend. No, that would be too, not bigoted, big-headed. I would, narcissistic. I'll just say big-headed. That would be too big-headed of a move to name it after the legend of Charles Robinson. But I'll say the Chronicles, yeah. The Chronicles of Charles Robinson. One out of however many I choose to make. I plan on making multiple YouTube channels is where I'll start off at. It'll house all of my ideas, and it'll house all of the things that I plan to do later on. possibly tell or educate people on a lot of the things that I deal with, a lot of the things that I think of day to day, and attempting to help people out in many situations. But I don't plan on staying on YouTube. I don't want to. But that'll be a much longer process, per se. What I really want to do is make my own social media. I want to make my own social media that houses all of the human interaction, similar to Reddit, some people would say, but not to make money off of them at all. I wouldn't house any sponsorship, any ads. It would only be off of possibly taxes, maybe. I mean, it would more so be a much better thing because you can't try and send any subliminal messages like YouTube and all other social medias do. With ads, with just general videos, with the algorithm, is what a lot of people call it. With the algorithm and how it shows you all the videos that you look for. I want to make a website that completely avoids that. And it only maybe small content creators and any bigger corporations or things such as that are not allowed on that app. That's what I think at this moment. That might be what I aim for. Small businesses, small people, small content creators, things such as that. But what I want my YouTube channel at this very moment to be about is describing all of my problems that I have with the general American society as of this moment. Now, me myself, I don't like to sound highbrow, narcissistic, and like I'm better than everyone else. I try to make my speech as solemn, humble. Saying the word humble to me seems so not humble. At this point in time, it's transformed the word, probably because of all the non-humble people that use it. But regardless, my point being, I don't want to seem just utterly ridiculous and out of touch when I make some of these videos, as most of the topics that I would speak about are very problematic, I'll say. Regardless, most of the things that I would speak about mainly are politics. Yes, but my hot takes is that politicians and politics themselves should not exist. Not too long ago, I saw a video about describing how government in ancient times, like what I think was Greek society, how they controlled everything. Not controlled everything, but how their government was structured. I spoke to my grandmother about this, and I've always thought about making my own YouTube channel to speak about some of the topics that I speak with my grandmother. And the way that they describe this form of government in that YouTube video, it was more of a lottery, I'll say. It didn't involve any politicians that their main job is to keep a good image. Their job is only to keep a good image, not to actually perform and change the fucking world. Not to better society, better the economy, not to actually make a change. The progress that we made in becoming not only a society, but as people, as a lot of things, I would say. Not only is it at a complete standstill, but it's regressing, in my complete opinion. I'm not gonna say that I hate I am gonna say this. I do consider myself very democratic, and I'd like to be as unbiased as possible. But realistically, democratic, it's supposed to be representing democracy and the way that we're supposed to change the world. Everyone's supposed to be equal, the land of the free, things like that. Republicans aren't Republican. They aren't. I spoke with my grandmother about this specific thing. She called them something in an earlier conversation, and I brung it up, and I just like really thought about it for a few seconds. She called them oligarchs. Because realistically, that's what they are. Oligarchs are people who run the world specifically with money. And it really resonated with me on a certain level. This isn't a fucking democracy. It's an oligarchy. I've heard it so many times in a lot of the videos that I watch on YouTube. And it really represents the times that we live in. It's disparaging. The problems that we deal with, the problems that we aren't able to solve because we can't make any fucking moves because the government is so stuck between arguing with its fucking self. We can't do anything. Now, one thing that I told my grandmother is, realistically, if the electoral college, if the electoral college did not exist and the votes went directly up to the government, like your vote genuinely fucking counted, not just this smokescreen of where your vote goes, essentially. 90% of the time, probably 95, the votes would be Democratic, or they would not be Republican, because the general public is not Republican. The Republican Party are oligarchs. They represent the 1%. And then there's the possible 3% extra that go with the Republicans just cause. But realistically, they aren't represented by what they do, because the Republican moves, they don't really affect those people in any positive way. Like the tax recalls and tax cuts, things such as that, they don't really affect those people, because they're only tax cuts that sort of affect the richer people that can make moves to make those tax cuts. But the general working person with the salary, they can't actually have a tax cut. Instead, they get tax increases. Then we spend like, what, $1 billion on essentially prisons or not even prisons, less than prison. What is it? Prison camps. Fucking prison camps for immigrants. Fucking $1 billion for a ton more prison systems to house a ton of more innocent fucking people. Then the 10,000 lawyers that this one company can hire against this one person who fucking, what is it, nearly died because of something that the company made and they bought. And you can't even fight the fucking company unless your fucking lawyer is like the smartest person on fucking earth that you can barely fucking afford anyway. I'm not gonna say that I'm gonna be the person to change the fucking world, but I do feel very strongly, unbelievably strongly, that I will be the person to start the fucking change. It's gonna be a long road, and possibly a road that's going to be longer than my 18-year-old life, because of the unbelievable amount of fuckness, I guess, that has been put onto our progress that we've made as a society. A lot of people would understand that you take one step forward and you take like 3 steps back. That's essentially what progress and regress is like. I think I've been told that so many times, and it just reminds me of just about everything. One thing that I hate the most, I have to be honest, I am the person to hate politicians myself. Now, that statement is a strong generalization, just like I said earlier, and it's pretty hypocritical. But, like I said, politicians just shouldn't exist. It should only be government personnel, realistically. There should not be politicians running the fucking government with what they feel is right. It's what is right, what will make actual progress. It's only government agencies and government personnel that should be running the government. You shouldn't be able to throw a little money this way and then a bunch of people start supporting you and suddenly you get to change Congress in a specific way and you get a bunch of money from a company because they don't want to have to pay more on their emissions and they're dumping quite a few toxic wastes and it's killing everybody in the neighborhood and soon they'll all have cancer, but they give the money to you this way so you can scrub it under the rug. Just so they can learn about it 50 years later. And they wonder why all of their kids have autism, cancer, and they're all dying young. We've always needed someone to do something about this. Something to do about the government. We always preach how we hate our government. Well, it's time to fucking do something. Because the roadie looks 1,000 miles with his eyes. And when the crowds roar, brings a teardrop to the roadie's eyes. Tears of pride, because he brought you the show. But you'll never know who's changing the strings while hiding in the wings. No matter how hard, the show must go on.